It's a university that gets students from across the country with elite colleges like Stephens and Lady Shri Ram. But this year, things are a bit out of sorts with a new 4-year course. NDTV's Alok Pandey reports on the impact this is having on admissions, which began today.
At the Delhi University's first admission form sale this season, the debate was over the decision to switch from the existing 3-year course system to a 4-year one. A decision by the Delhi University that's seen a lot of protests by both teachers and student organizations who say the move is ill-timed and not properly planned. And as students start applying for colleges, the debate is far from over.
4 साल का सर प्रोग्राम है सर, बहुत बेकार है सर, इसको नहीं लागू करना चाहिए. ये इंडिया में ड्यूक और सर BHU, कोलकाता यूनिवर्सिटी सब में सर 3 साल का है सर, यहाँ पे 4 साल का क्यों सर?
4 साल का जो कोर्स लागू हुआ है क्योंकि ये जो बाहर की यूनिवर्सिटी हैं, जितनी फॉरेन यूनिवर्सिटी, बच्चों को उस लेवल तक होने के लिए यूनिवर्सिटी का 4 साल का वो कोर्स हुआ है, तो इस कोर्स से हम सहमत हैं.
Unfazed by the protests, DU says its new and controversial course system is on track.
आई थिंक बहुत अच्छी तरह से रिस्पांस रहा है. 4000 बच्चों के साथ वाइस चांसलर ने मीटिंग करी. हमने ओपन डेज करे जिसमें 2000, 2500, 3000 तक बच्चे रोज आते थे और उनके जो भी डाउट्स थे हमने क्लियर किए.
For a majority of these students, though, the focus was on trying to make sense of these forms and managing to get admission to a college of their choice. This year, students can only tick the course choices on the form and then walk into any college for admission where their marks meet the cutoff criteria.
I got 91.5.
Okay.
And
that's it. I must tell you, I got 77 way back in 2000 and I managed an admission at Hansraj. You think with your 91 you're going to manage an admission into an elite college in this university?
elite college, I doubt, but then it's a race.
These forms will be on sale till the 19th of June and the first cutoff list for the university will be out on the 27th. A tip to beat the summer, these forms are available online on the Delhi University website. In New Delhi with Alok Pandey and Stephen Anthony, Madhusudan for NDTV.
So why did the government endorse this system despite stiff opposition? I spoke earlier to HRD Minister Shashi Tharoor. Thanks for speaking to us. Now, colleagues who went to DU today to report on the system say that many are confused about the cause, the protests. Is this a good note to start on?
No, but I hope that the confusion will be dispelled with greater clarity. I mean, basically those who had got used to the idea of just psychologically preparing for a 3-year BA can still do so. Delhi University is still offering the 3-year BA. The main difference is going to be that as they settle into the academic environment, if they decide they want to go for an honours degree, they can now go for a 4-year program. And they don't have to. In fact, one of the interesting things about this is that DU has actually acknowledged that there are some 20,000 dropouts coming out of DU every year, and as a result they've actually got a 2-year program for an associate diploma which allows somebody to leave the university after 2 years. If they don't, they still get something for their 2 years, whereas in the old days many would drop out after 1 or 2 years and get nothing. Then the 3-year students will get a regular BA, which will put them on the same par as the 3-year BA students in the rest of the country, and they will therefore be as eligible for a job as anybody else. But those who want the more rigorous degree will be a 4-year degree if they want an honors degree from DU, which by then might become a more prestigious option for a certain number of the students. Now this is the plan, and it's it's got time to work itself out. Don't forget that anybody joining the university today is actually going to be in the 4th-year program only 3 years from now. So there is time still to dot the I's and cross the T's and dispel some of the confusion you're talking about.
But is that the best way to do it, to evolve a system over the next few years? Why not have the dialogue first?
Well, I mean, frankly, this is not a question you should be addressing to me. You should be addressing it to the university authorities, because I have taken the position as a minister that it is not healthy for the intellectual life of our country for the ministry to be overruling a university on a matter which is within its own academic prerogatives. The only question is, has the university followed the requirements of consultation and the various stages of decision making that are foreseen in the university statutes? In the case of DU, that includes the academic council, it includes the executive council, and it includes the university court. And all of these have overwhelmingly approved the plan, including the timetable for the plan. So I don't think it's entirely wise for me as a minister to sit in a government office and say to them, thou shalt not do this. I mean, they have already done it through their procedures, and now they have to see how effectively they can implement it. And one of my approaches would be to give universities the freedom to experiment in this way and see if they can make a success of these new ideas.
Okay, I can understand your approach, but for the critics who say that the teachers have said that this proposal and to introduce it was only moved on the 24th of December and that it's a very short time, that's the first time they heard about it. So, as Education Minister, what would you say to them?
Well, according to the information available at the ministry, the original decision to have a 4-year program was taken in the Academic Council in 2008. So that's 5 years ago. In that time, after Dinesh Singh became Vice Chancellor, he apparently conducted a number of processes of consultation, an academic congress open to teachers, students, administrators and parents. He's had a number of separate meetings with teachers, with students and so on, and all of that culminated in the approach to the Academic Council. So there is an entire process that he has gone through, and he's given us dates and details of who came and so on. It does seem that some of the critics of this venture chose not to participate in these consultations, and I think that's regrettable. I think what we need is for the Vice Chancellor and his critics to embrace each other in the truly academic spirit of give and take and have a frank discussion. It's too late, I think, to reopen the issue of principle, because the Academic Council, for example, approved it 88 votes to 6. So it's not even as if it was a close discussion. But I hope that the implementation will involve sufficient consultation with academics, including those academics who have been critical of the Vice Chancellor. I've known him for a while. I believe he is an open-minded person, an intelligent person, and I believe he will want to see what his critics have to say. And I hope that those of his critics who approach me will act in the same spirit that I've advised them to do, which is to try and engage with the Vice Chancellor rather than trying to get us to overrule him.
Well, obviously there are conflicting reports about what the Vice Chancellor is saying and also what the teachers are saying, but because it's your alma mater, aren't you concerned that it started, that it's being implemented, but the teachers who are going to teach this new system, they aren't on board?
It is definitely a matter of concern, but at the same time one is aware that no change in our country of any sort will attract unanimity. It is absolutely a matter of concern that some teachers are unhappy. If the majority of teachers were resistant or unhappy, then we would have a problem, but it does not seem that a majority is. We have letters the Vice Chancellor has received from a significant number of teachers embracing this and wanting to proceed with it, and as you may have seen, there have been op-ed articles by a couple of professors supporting the Vice Chancellor and not just the ones we've seen opposing him.
So is it established that majority teachers are for the new program? Because, you know, what the reports have been, and also certain people have gone public, formidable names like Romila Thapar, Ramchandra Guha, they've all gone public in expressing their reservations about this new system.
There are some very formidable names, and many of these are people I know and have respected for a long time. And therefore, when they call me, I'm obviously very attentive to their concerns. And I do want to tell you that many of the most prominent critics have approached me, have approached our Cabinet Minister Pallam Raju, have even approached the Prime Minister and the President of the country. So it's not as if their views have not been heard at the highest levels. But there is something a bit worrying if we take the position that those, shall we say, prominent citizens or elites whom we have access to, that their voice should count more than the majority in the Academic Council or the majority in the Executive Council. This is intellectually a troubling question for me to answer. Do I say that because half a dozen very prominent people whom I've socialized with, or in some cases studied with or studied under, are calling me, that I should pay more heed to their views than the views that have emerged from the consultative process within the university, under the university statutes, where a majority of people I've never heard of have supported the Vice Chancellor. You're asking for essentially an undemocratic action because certain prominent people wish something to be done. I find that very troubling in principle, and for that reason, while I have respected these people, I have engaged with everyone who has called me, written to me, emailed me, met me, and I've not denied any of them the full opportunity to express their views. I have stuck to the principle that I don't think it's my place to overrule the Vice Chancellor, as long as he's followed due process, as long as he has the majorities that he actually has in the official bodies of the university.
Okay, that's an interesting point, but you know, we're all, I guess the main concern is for the students and how they will cope with this new system. So I know that you've set up a UGC, set up an overseeing body. So how will that work? How will they step in if there is a problem?
As you can see from my attire, I'm away from Delhi. I'm in my constituency, Thiruvananthapuram, and I've been running around a number of functions here for the last couple of days. So I actually cannot tell you what has gone into this. All I understand is that the objective is, as I myself had suggested, that it should be a committee that would essentially look into the academic rigor with which the decision is implemented. It is not to rethink the Vice Chancellor's prerogatives, but rather to embrace the academic community, including many of the critics, in a process that will ensure that the highest academic standards are followed in the implementation of the decision.
Now, if we look at some of the concerns of some of the students from across the country, because after all, Delhi University, people from all over, I'm sure from your constituency also head here. Now, if other universities don't have 4 years, so and if they want to come to Delhi for their MA, how will it work? How will the parity of 3 years and 4 year courses work?
Well, I understand that the policy is going to be that those who have done a 3-year BA will need to do a 2-year MA, and those who've done a 4-year BA will just do a 1-year MA. The same logic applies in reverse. You've done a 3-year BA somewhere else and you come to Delhi University, you'll have to do the 2-year MA, and you've come with a 4-year BA from elsewhere. For example, the Indian Institute of Science offers a bachelor's degree that's 4 years, so do a couple of our technological and engineering institutions. Then you would only do 1 year. So the logic of the MA coming after 5 years remains untouched. But it can either be 3+2 or 4+1. That, I believe, is the way they wish to proceed.
So it's all worked out.
So I understand, but as I said, this is not my job. This is the Vice Chancellor's job, and you should ask him the question.
Okay, but asking you, in retrospect, the transition to the 4-year course, do you think it could have been handled better?
Look, I don't think it's appropriate for me to answer that question, because anything I say will be seen as taking sides in a matter that is really not my business beyond a point. I do believe that in all of these things, the academic spirit requires consultation, cooperation, and frankly, collegiality. The very word suggests colleges, but the fact is that the colleagues in these colleges are not always people who agree with each other, and I do have the impression that in some of these cases, perhaps agreement that we would like to have seen was not available. But I hope that the university, the administrators, the Vice Chancellor, the professors, and the students will come together to make this work in a constructive spirit. Many of those I've spoken about said, look, we realize it's too late to undo the decision, but please make sure it's implemented properly. And that is something which I certainly believe that we in the ministry are pushing for in that direction.
Well, thanks very much, Shashi Tharoor, for speaking with us. And that's it.
Thank you, Sunita. Good talking to you.